Thank you very much. At the moment, they're passing out the Nobel Prizes. Did you ever notice that they never tell us who came in second? Who the runners-up were? Well, stand by now for the Mark Russell second Banana Nobel Prizes. People you never heard about, for example, the second Banana Nobel Peace Prize was won by the banker in Switzerland who accidentally took the Iran-Contra money and put them in his grandchildren's trust fund. The second Banana Nobel Prize for Economics, of course, goes to Orel Roberts, who, with management techniques and business expertise, plus a threat from God, raised $8 million. The Nobel Prize for Literature goes to the author of the book Vanna White Speaks. Written by Vanna White with Bob Woodward of the Washington Post. Mr. Woodward's other book, of course, is the talk of Washington these days. Everybody's heard about it. My Pal, Bill Casey, by Bob Woodward. Very, very interesting book here. I didn't realize they were that close. Yes, indeed. Mr. Woodward was often a guest in the Casey home where he would address Mrs. Casey as Mom. Tells how CIA Director Casey so loved the media that he had pictures on his desk of Mrs. Casey, Barbara Walters, Ted Koppel, and Bob Woodward. And tells how at one point the CIA set up a covert dummy operation known as the Senate Intelligence Committee. And, of course, the famous deathbed scene in Washington, Mr. Casey at Georgetown Hospital, and that was Mr. Casey's final covert operation because at that very moment, the real Bill Casey was at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles. So, I'm going to run and read that. Now, the big item in Washington is, of course, the confirmation, very historic, of Judge Bork to the Supreme Court. They're voting on it as we speak here now, and I tell you, I approach this with an open mind, and I listened to everything Mr. Bork has said, and I just concluded that here's a man whose favorite color is plaid. I mean, you... Well, as they say in sophisticated legal circles, this is one complex dude. I mean, I read his book. The whole book was nothing but footnotes. I'm sorry, but you would need seatbelts to follow the hairpin curves in Mr. Bork's thinking. It is so cut. For example, Bork's solution to slavery. Free the owners. That's got to be it. The landmark Supreme Court case, Plessy versus Ferguson, Bork sided with Miranda. Freedom of speech. Bork would say that you cannot yell fire in a crowded theater. However, you can yell theater in a crowded fire. Pornography. I get the impression that pornography, Bork would say that men and women who pose for dirty pictures are in direct violation of the photographer's right to privacy. I don't know. Libel. I bet he'd say that you cannot sue an airline because the Constitution was written before the airplane was invented. And so, the opposition lined up on Capitol Hill, a veritable army of people opposing the confirmation of Robert Bork. 76 complaints aimed at Robert Bork, with 110 brickbats in their wake. And it went on for days and days as the women, blacks and gays, thought that Bork would burn them at the stake. 76 big groups up to Congress came with the record of Bork to be stomped upon. But Bork didn't bat an eye, looking somber for a guy whose funny little beard looked pasted on. The Democratic senators went after him. Patrick Leahy, Kennedy, and Howard Metzenbaum. The three of them grew wearier and mentally inferior, not knowing just where Bork was coming from. 76 complaints came from far and wide. The petitions came pouring in with dispatch. But if you turn Bork away, Reagan says you'll make my day. 'Cause waiting in the wings is Orrin Hatch. That's where we're heading. Reagan's legacy is Bork or Orrin Hatch and Armageddon, so let us parade. It's Robert Bork or Orrin Hatch. So there was Robert Bork facing the Senate Judiciary Committee as he was interrogated on the law by Joseph Biden and Teddy Kennedy, both of whom had the questions written on their sleeves for old time's sake. And while all of that was going on, Senator Joseph Biden, you recall, had to pull out of the presidential race. He said, I'm no longer a candidate, and I will definitely finish high school. No. Well, with the plagiarism thing with Biden, I mean, you knew that the speeches sounded kind of familiar, didn't I think it was a time months ago when he said that if he got the nomination, his running mate would be Lyndon Johnson. Now, I heard that before. So reporters said, well, Senator Biden, what about these charges that you have plagiarized famous speeches? And Biden said, to be or... If we ask him, Joe could write a book about what portions of great speeches he took. Here's a Biden paper on acid rain with a passage or two from Mark Twain. Here's a talk on women's equal pay. It sounds familiar. I believe that's RFK. And with future speeches, must we surmise, is it Biden or Churchill in disguise? One more question, as everyone suspects. Is it Joe Biden or is it Memorex? A displayed charisma which has beguiled his chapter and verse from Oscar Wilde. Here's a talk he gave in Waterloo. It has a ring. Ah, yes, 12th Night, Act 2. Unlike Hart's excuse, Joe's could just suffice, unless he plagiarized all night. With Donna Rice, no excuses.